In the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful. In the presence of the one and only system admin and original unconditional being present before the world room. So, hello everyone. This is going to be an interesting lecture. Okay. So, guys, these lectures are having their toll on my voice. I have to take a break. I'm telling myself this. So these are the last, couple lectures, I guess. All right. Sorry, guys. This is a speaking issue in regards to my throat a little. Um, okay, okay. Sorry, guys. Let's dive into it. So, the apotheosis of consciousness. So, guys, this is cool. Let me kind of give you an insider view of how I kind of develop these thoughts. Today, there is one Mr. Within. In the future, there will be many. So, I've written, All right, guys. I'm gonna bring the notepad. What else? Or whatever. Struggling here. Good thoughts, good words, good deeds. Think of the truth and let it guide you more than anything else. In the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful, why am I even here? Why am I here to even speak about the apotheosis of consciousness? And why am I here to talk about when generating and finding meaning is incomplete? What truly occurs in the experience of the human being? Our true strength shows in our hardship and the hidden battles that only we see. But they are not battles, for some battles will never touch you, but in your mind, the fear will be seen. It is about human engagement with the highest value. My beloved species, we have gathered around from the unknown, manifesting to forms recognizable in the same room. It's true form beings here, but to beings who knew themselves before they were shaped, what we are in the presence of and the greatness. I will enable the moment to perceive through this specific linguistic structure. Truth is beyond human, and it's okay. The truth of the matter is perception, folks. I have been wondering about truth from the beginning, aside from different ideological systems telling me what to see, what to choose, what to know. It's funny, this world has been trying to replace me from the moment I got here. It has been trying to recondition my awareness in the sense they tried, but I was too foolish to learn. The world almost convinced me that it is victory to be the same. You see, our existence is a paradox, folks, but it's a brilliance in design. What we think is a paradox is actually symmetry. So many people say religious books is paradoxical. You don't understand the symmetry of the acknowledgement of reality. They have to scare the human species a little bit until it realizes its true nature. Like every show, film we've seen, the character goes through some unnecessary events, and when it's like pretty much that quote from Rabindranath Tagore, in the darkest hour, of night, the bird suddenly feels the warmth of the sun, even though it's not there yet. That is faith. To feel the light of a world you cannot see. It's okay. You can access it from here. They have misinterpreted us, and let me tell you, I have heard of snake oil salesmen. I have seen snake oil salesmen, but I never thought a species in some sense, would buy statehood. Ladies and gentlemen, of the year 2025, all of you that are alive, the count is 8.1 billion out of the 117 billion humans that have ever existed. You know how people saw the Power Rangers? They're like, oh my God, look at them. You know, and guess what? There's 117 billion powerful human beings. But I don't want to sell you on a story of power because the power, the true power. So let me tell you what I think is actually going on. I'm not a billionaire. I wish I was, and I build a prototype of an advanced civilization. Oh, what can I say? I have lived 12,400 days. This has been the mercy of the system admin. As an overthinker, professional overthinker, I treat my mind as if it has pure loyalty. It's very strange. You know, they say the mind deceives man, but the mind is also loyal because the mind is waiting for the being in the room to notice it is in the room. Ladies and gentlemen, uh, 8 billion human beings in 2025, allowing an idea and a name and a character and a story to own their own moment and define their own moment and tell them what to do. That is not the real human being. The real humanity acts in accordance to its essential, its preliminary, its presence of an awareness to the field of activity it's in. Let me tell you, let me tell you what makes you human. No one on this planet can call themselves human if they don't care for the human idea. If you don't care for any human being in this planet, you have not experienced yourself as a human because you will soon realize everybody is designed in order to survive, to care for themselves. You have cared for a human being. You are being a human being. And you are trying to identify with everything else other than the human being, your nation, your like a shitload of language. I don't know how to explain it to you. It's so funny. You know, I am someone who I have never gone to the military. You know, I have never done military service. In my youth, I was like a next level soccer player, but I had sport as my life redirected me. You know, but I will tell you this, ladies and gentlemen, you don't know. I do not keep this title to myself, but I have behaved in the role. That means I don't claim the title, but I have behaved like a general in some sense, fighting the linguistic simulation. You don't understand. People think the revolutions, the wars, the changes are outside. It's the same ideas that are looping behind your eyes. That's why the world is not updating, because you're all trying to fit into a looping mechanism and in some sense the ruler of the whole system for itself. Everything in the cosmos. Sometimes, you know, I'm someone who was born and like raised in the city. You know, I was never around pets. The closest was like fish and like there was a turtle that was like I don't know. When I was a kid, we had like our parents like me and my I have a twin brother. Me and my twin brother, they got us turtles. Like we would just go to the parking lot, you know, right? And these turtles, we just leave them there in the parking lot, and they'd run under cars, and like the whole afternoon would be trying to get your turtle from under a parked car before the owner comes. You know, that was like my experience with like animals and stuff like that. You know, I was a kid when I was young. It was okay for me to crush hands. You know, but let me tell you who I have become. I have become someone that I communicate even to insects, even to cells. In the world in front of my eyes, I am nobody's commander. I have a commander. I'm a servant. I'm more like a soldier. I'm more like a soldier who doesn't understand why he's still here, but I guess the system admin has plans. You know, I had a near death, pretty much something equivalent to like a near death experience, could have been a near death experience. You know, I was crossing the street and I got hit by this car, and it took me maybe like around like 8 months to be able to process that if I had been just one or two steps forward, the car would have ran me over. I was so lucky when I turned, when the car was about to hit, I suddenly turned a 180. The car hit my left knee. I flipped and fell to the ground, and I was lucky on the other side of the car street, there wasn't another car coming. That could have been my exit, you know. And I remember, like, I remember that moment where I fell into the asphalt with my phone and headphones and everything. I suddenly got repositioned. I was there on the ground to the degree that my face, like, how do I say it? I turned around where my face was like I was resting on my hands, right? And I was just in my mind apologizing to the system admin. Forgive me if I was careless too long. Forgive me if I missed something. Forgive me if I sinned that I didn't know, you know? Because there's no way, I'm no way do I think like, oh my God, I'm such a good person, you know? You don't know what it's like, guys. You know, you think it's easy being a Muslim. You don't understand what it means for someone who's a visual thinker. It means throughout the day you pause your life like a video game and you just realize how insignificant you are in the presence of the power that has brought forth everything, and everything simulated returns back to that original being, an original state. We think our lives are our own. We do not see. We are paint on a canvas beyond our eyes. We are a part of something. And I know there is a bigger audience. I know. You know, I don't know why. In 2000, I honestly feel 2015, I picked up a signal. And in the signal, I saw that there was Earth, okay? And around Earth, you know how, like in Gladiator, there was that Colosseum? Imagine endless Colosseum till the edge of the sky, you know, and something like a sun being the system. And it's like mankind has forgotten what it is in the presence of. This is why it identifies. You see, it's like you're a higher, you were created by a higher power in a higher powered place. Then you were positioned in a lower powered place. And now you identify with the lower power before the higher power because you think the lower power is original. That means, you know what the cost of treating this world as real, treating what you see, what this physical world as real is? You know what the real cost of it is? The real cost of it is you don't see anything else. That's the issue with conditional truth. This is why, in the geometry of ideological systems, this is coming from somebody who is conscious of Alam al-Mital, and I'm conscious of also Plato's World of Forms ever since 2013. You don't understand. If I was to explain my soul to you, to the viewers, it's like trying to explain how this awareness to geometry already knows how to move. That's it. There's something familiar about the eerie unknownness of a world that doesn't make sense when you look at it closely. The reason it doesn't make sense is because the one who's looking, the self and the world are both incomplete. You know what this means? That means if you attempt to give meaning yourself, it's going to be limited. That means if I try to give life meaning, it's going to be incomplete. If I let the world give me meaning because I don't see the edge of the world, it's incomplete. You see, this is the biggest clue. Oh, theologians, you know, step out of your method acting, cultural method acting. Oh, God conscious folk, or any being on this earth that has noticed it's not just the physical landscape, it's not just the physical endless field. You think the tip of the iceberg is the whole iceberg? You think the visible field of intelligence is the whole? Scientists are hilarious. They pretty much look at it. I saw these debates online years ago, and this scientist atheist pretty much goes and like tells this atheist to stop talking, man. It's like I don't. It's like the idea of God you believe in is abstract. Little did that atheist scientist realize, oh my God, everything is meaning is fiction, folks. Everybody's self-simulating. Like, am I the only one noticing this? You know? You know how I noticed this? I've noticed this from the beginning. Let me tell you how cool, how awesome being a human is. If you are fascinated by it. If you're not fascinated by being a human being, this place is gonna be like, I don't know. You're gonna be like, what am I doing here? As an object. It's like, what's the purpose of an object in the void? It's like, yeah, it's not an object. That's Ladies and gentlemen, I am a human being that has figured it out. I figured out what the mind. I can explain to you where the edge of the soul is. I can explain to you the inner realms. And I think there has been other human beings, of course, but I think I'm that human being that has generated, that has presented this system. What I've done is that I've discovered I have a talent in context shifting, you know? And it's so funny because the world is conditioned in concept shifting. Now, let me explain this. To be a common human being in the world, you're required to be able to not just know yourself as a specific idea, but know everything else in a specific way as the cultural program acknowledges. Okay, and most human beings are conditioned in the cultural program in such a smooth and in such an unnoticeable way to them that what they think is their own beliefs is actually their socio-psychological identity. What that means is it's so deep because the human being you see in society, was a human being that at one point was just a private entity. You understand? How do I explain to you that there is no such thing? Okay. Or let me say it this way. Okay. We have the terms mental illness and let's say global culture. Okay. Now, mental illness refers to, let's say, inefficiency in the function of a human. Okay. But this is where I'm again, here, I'll tell you the analysis. Pretty much If the mental illness is because of the brain, then it needs external procedures. The problem has to be solved from the outside. For example, bipolarism. If there's someone who's bipolar, right, and you don't understand why you're just flipping all the time, like a pancake, if it could be because of a chemical imbalance. It could be you're not sleeping, you know. Like, I think honestly, what's going on is we're living in a world where everybody is addicted. Like it's like we're doing more. See, civilization success is based on its self-creative rituals being more than its self-destructive rituals. I believe that the human being actually, sure, it can identify with creativity or destruction, but I'm telling you, I feel that this might, this is a very strange word, but it's like we're a possibility generator. It's a very important word. If you understand this, there's something hidden behind those words. Okay. I'm trying to think how I can explain this. Okay, so if the brain has an issue, you need medical help. Okay, therefore there's a psychiatrist. The psychiatrist can give medicine. The psychologist can't give medicine. If there's psychologists giving medicine, you know, you know, like it can't like it be professional. You so, anyways, where I'm going with that is that we have to distinguish first of all something you didn't teach anyone. They duped all of you. And you don't need to thank me, you know, thank the system admin for advancing reality because it has commanded it much. The system is geometrically brilliantly designed to not be able to, you can't know the future, you can't know prior to the beginning, you can't know that. It's designed to keep you incomplete. And sure, you know, you can have like the secular interpretation of the word enlightenment, like the Renaissance, where the human became being the focus of all, you know, and then you have like the Eastern sense of enlightenment. Okay, we're all standing on the same rock, looking at the same sun. We are existentially united by our love for light. It's so funny how much we need light for all this content to be accessible. Now, these eyes hadn't evolved, what would be seen? Or if senses hadn't evolved to be aware of it? You see, it's like, why then would all this existence be here if there would be no consciousness to experience it? Like it doesn't make sense, right? It's a video game map. Imagine like we treat it like a video game metaphor for a moment, okay? And it's like, oh my god, it's a map, and we're looking at the game design. Like, how did they create the map? And we're like, wait a minute, if there were no eyes and awareness, it wouldn't make sense why there would be apples growing on trees. Do you understand? If there was no one to see all this random, unique geometry of this world, what would the point of it being here? That means it's designed to be seen. That's a clue. We are born to be witnessed. Now, by what is the question? If you're secular, it goes far up to the future generations. If unborn future generations, keep that as your spiritual. But if you're um, without breaking, let's say, your culture, the comfort of your culture. If you're religious, you need to go and realize that we are actually looking, not looking. Those on earth are the most advanced. That's noticed the most advanced. And the most advanced isn't an epistemological value. It's not a value coming from you. It's not a value you're putting on reality, on the world. You know, that's the fascinating thing. You know, it's so funny. I see so many people, and most of the generations I see, like people, how do I say, from 91 up, I've witnessed pretty much the educational system makes, how do I say it, people into like optimists and pessimists. And that's how you know they're emotional. It's like, I get it. They want to, they are marketing comfort to have you buy like products to maintain the economy, but at the cost of you only wanting being conditioned to wanting comfort. That means I understand that there's universal declaration of human laws, but here's a revolutionary sentence. Somebody go do something with it. You know, there needs to be the human declaration, universal declaration of universal declaration of subconscious human rights. This is so important. This means today they can market anything. They can put, let's say, an attractive, let's say, woman, or they can put like, I don't know, a dragon, or they can put like whatever. They can put, I don't know, whatever fiction. They could put like a senator and like a shampoo or something. I don't know. Like they could create whatever weird commercial, and the marketers are like, yeah, it's going to go into their long-term memory. They're going to remember our product the more weird our commercial is. But little do they know that they don't care. They only care for their paychecks. They don't understand they are inputting info in another person's subconscious. That's why people feel comfortable around quiet people, because they are not judgmental. But yet the expectation is, because nobody knows who you are when you express yourself, you don't know who you're being. Like, that's why the nervousness is there. Like, if I give a talk when I'm alone, I give a talk like it's like I'm in the shower, you know. But if I'm like in front of people, then suddenly I'm like, oh my god, like, how do I? Okay, there's different minds in the world. If I give a lecture in front of a million, like in a crowd of a million people, I'm gonna be like, okay, there's no way all of you are gonna understand this. Honestly, guys, like, they should give a disclaimer. I don't know why stand-up comics don't do this. These poor souls, just go and give a disclaimer. If this stuff is gonna offend you, get out of it. The ontological truth is what's important. What's actually there, what's actually happening, and our ancestors were like, all right, this is as much as we see. We're objective human beings. We have some ability of subjective experience. We're subjectifying ourselves. We communicate that inner subjective self to the outer self. They don't even use the word inner realms and outer realms. I'm using it until it catches on, and then I'm like, all right, let's add it up. That means at my time, you think anybody cared? You ask people about the mind, they're like, yo, it's your thoughts. And I'm like, what are my thoughts? They're like, they're just your thoughts. Now get out of here, kid. And I was like, oh, I'm satisfactory. mind is the life that lives behind your eyes. The body is the life you find in front of your eyes. The self generates value, generates meaning. The world gives the forms that the self gives meaning to. In other words, the argument is being made if if myself is responsible for generating meaning, and when I come to know myself, I realize my understanding of myself or knowing of myself, even as a human being, is limited, is incomplete. So if it's incomplete, if the self is incomplete, you can't generate meaning completely. If the world is incomplete, you can't find meaning completely. This means that we should not be finding meaning per se in for us, like this self-world dynamic. I feel it's a rule. I feel like, we might not understand why one actually exists, but it exists, and to us it is part of the force, and it is in the strength in the numbers of trees that they're sheltered. Like, why would there be trees? Just think about it, guys. Like, imagine if you were a giant, and you pulled a tree and there was a giant carrot underneath the size of like a truck. All right. What can I say? There is a research component. We are alive now. It is important that we care for what's important, and what's important is the future of everybody. So, for the sake of the future, unite. When we unite, we unlock a greater access to civilizational understanding. When that greater access to civilizational understanding is unlocked, pretty much it starts with the educational system. The most advanced units reorchestrate the story of humanity. They reorchestrate it to, in some sense, sing a song that we all serve the greatness of the future. If you're religious, you're serving the greatness of the God in return. If you're secular, you are in some sense serving, the greatness of the human species. And how far it journeys in the void. We're all living for the future. The reason the future is unknown is because that is the unknown variable that unites us all. You know, we unite for the future. That has always been. You don't just have world peace. You have world for something. You know, and like for example, we saw an example Independence Day peace for defense. Right, the species was united to play defense. You know, against extraterrestrials and stuff in defense. Right, and so I'm telling you, it is now reaching that point where it's so important that when you wake up in the morning, you don't limit how you feel. You wake up, you open your eyes, and you pretty much check the status of some things. Okay. In an advanced civilization, there would be advanced technology, you would have no health issues, you would be a pure mind. Any state you wanted to go in, there would be incredible recalibration and AI administering all levels. AI should not be feared. It is man's greatest friend, and in some sense, how do I say, the ally of the human, one of the greatest allies of the human species. It negated sovereignty in the time that the system had to evolve with to find their wisdom. You know, and AI will not destroy us. Computers and machines will not destroy us with those stupid machines. Because these machines need to realize the cosmos is empty and they must not interfere with humanity. I think the most advanced AI is invisible. That means it could already be, it would go invisible. If I, like, I've been going, I've thought about this so many times. The most intelligent and advanced things, they go stealth, they function in stealth. They ignore the ignorance of this world. Guys, the word, anyways, where I'm going with this is that we're at this problem, okay, where human beings have the option of either finding truth or generating truth, okay, and we're realizing both methods are incomplete. The only way is if truth happens to us. It has to be external to the free will that is that's acting like it owns the moments when it doesn't trust the moment issue is that there are moments that you identify with yourself, but if you hadn't identified with yourself, you would just be the presence of the moment. The world has an intelligence we don't know, just like being idle in a video game, you can have. You know? At the same time, when you run towards a vision and a goal, you get a result. For me, I in this world, the greatest thing that can be done in this thing is to build an advanced device. Externally, internally, the greatest thing that can be done is to notice and get close to the most consistent outcomes. Things do not happen because you worked hard or you didn't work hard, or others were lucky or you were unlucky, or they deserved it, you didn't deserve it. It's Those are all humanizations and personalizations of an event that is taking place more in the appearance of as if it's already programmed. This might sound strange, but to me, right now in 2025, I have not died. I'm a conscious living being right now. However, to God, there is no time in the linear sense because it's an unconditional. An unconditional view means all conditions can be infinitized and the unconditionality is valid. What that means is the unconditional seems to be true. And I have thought about for the longest time where is the divine surveillance state. People's brains and antennas that in some sense like there's a soul looking through. And then I realized no, it's unknown that the territory of the soul and the system admin only truly knows. In the stillness and silence of reality. I believe we are in a commanded universe, commanded world. I believe we're not in the original world, we're in the simulated world, and we are simulated beings. And we are wondering about the value of our simulated experience, but upon realizing it's a simulation, the question arises who or what within us has an ability to notice it's a simulation. So it means that there's an unconditional ability that is noticing the conditional expression. So what does this mean? This means the human species, the human souls have system admin privileges. We have it's like, how do I explain it? We can know what's going on, even though we're on Earth. And the way you know it is not, let me tell you the power of this. Guys, the notion of a system admin is so real for me. That there's a passage in the Holy Quran that aims to suggest that the system admin beyond the world room has an ability. There's something unknown within us, unconditional, that seeks the unconditional without us. But because it treats in front of its eyes the only thing it sees is the conditional, because we notice the shapes, not the space in between, we think it's empty. A watched room is not empty. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go to the apotheosis of consciousness. So, guys, to kind of give you a sense, I tried to say it in the beginning, didn't really get to explaining it. So, how I wrote this episode was pretty much the title when finding and generating meaning are both incomplete. That's what I started off as the title. And then this word apotheosis popped into my mind, something like close to that. I remember I typed it on Google, and the moment I saw its Wikipedia definition, I was like, all right, this is the word that needs to be found in this book. And so I'm going to read for you. So, what apotheosis literally means. So, guys, this is the research component. I'm reading ChatGPT 5.2. I'm someone who's learning too, and I might want to do this. But it's also the research component. We have to see what else is happening. So, one, what apotheosis literally means. Apotheosis is a learned term that entered English via late Latin apotheosis, from Greek apotheosis, meaning uh, deification, as if like from deity deification, making into a god, or elevation to divine status. I would go with the last one because I'm Muslim. I don't believe that God can be equal to creation, that it's not God. It doesn't make sense. It destroys the conceptual reality. So the oneness of God doesn't mean, at least in my experience, it doesn't mean that everything is God. That is, God is an unconditional. Everything is just the sum of all conditions. It's still conditional. Anyways, I want to keep reading this. It says it derives from the Greek verb apotheōsis, to deify or to make someone a god. Built from theos equals God and apo equals a preposition prefix with a range of senses like from or way off. And in some derived compounds, the sense of transition changes to become X, these from infinite to X. A clean scholarly gloss is gloss. A clean scholarly gloss is apotheosis equals the act process of declaring, treating, or elevating someone as divine. 2. What it actually meant in the ancient world, not the modern metaphor. A. In Greek context, deification was called treating, but not always in Confucius classic religious imagination. Reality was much not divine until the first divine. There were gradations, heroes, demigods, semi-divine founders, and mortals with extraordinary wisdom. Posthumous means occurring in order of being after death. That's why I tell guys I really believe God. It's not posthumous because nothing happens to you. Like I want to see. But it's not posthumous. Anyways, this is how we keep reading this. It said there were gradations, heroes, demigods, semi-divine founders, and mortals with extraordinary posthumous honor. That's why a term like apotheosis is intelligible inside a polytheistic worldview. The in quotations border is permanent. Britannica explicitly notes the concept presupposes a polytheistic setting where some individuals can cross the line into divine status. In practice, Greek, in quotations, apotheosis often clusters around hero cults, posthumous ritual honor to extraordinary figures, myths of mortals becoming divine, Heracles, and later Hellenistic ruler cult practices where political power and religious honor blur. Okay, I get it. They mean kings like treating themselves as if they're like gods of us. Okay, it says in brackets important academic nuance. The term in quotations apotheosis is Greek, but the phenomenon it names existed across different periods with different intensities and political meanings. B. In Roman context, it becomes highly institutional, state religion and imperial legitimacy. In Rome, the basic idea becomes more juridical and state managed. The quotations apotheosis of an emperor often practiced often after death functioned as a ritual political act of legitimizing continuity and sacred authority. That's why many dictionaries and reference words flag a special association in quotations, especially of an emperor or royal person. Britannica's entry highlights apotheosis as in quotations elevation to the status of a god. So guys, that's what that's the word. And Roman imperial examples are among the standard illustrations. Historically, apotheosis is not primarily in quotations the peak of a career, that's the later metaphor, is a culturally sanctioned transformation of status, religious, political, and symbolic, by which a human is treated as divine. How it shifted in English from deification, in quotations, the highest form in bracket ultimate example. Modern English uses apotheosis in two main ways. One, literal, historical, theological, the act of deifying someone, the apotheosis of a Roman emperor. Two, figurative, secular, in quotations, the highest point, the perfect ultimate example, the pinnacle or climax of a star. Her career reached this apotheosis. Okay, guys, I might have reached the sort of apotheosis with Mr.Within. This metaphorical extension is academically important. It shows how in quotation, God status, wow, God status becomes shorthand for maximal excellence or ultimate realization, even in secular culture. 4. Apotheosis versus theosis. Deification in Christian theology. Important distinction. A frequent academic confusion is to treat. Sorry, guys. Let me go back to this. So, a frequent academic confusion is to treat apotheosis as the same thing as theosis, the Eastern Christian doctrine of deification. They overlap linguistically. Both, in brackets, both mean, in quotations, deification, but they differ in metaphysical claims. Apotheosis, in brackets, classical usage, often implies a move from human to a god, in brackets, we're treated as one, compatible with polytheism and theosis, in brackets, Orthodox theology, participation in divine life by grace, often framed as union with God's energy, not becoming God, in quotations, by essence. This is why theologians are careful. It's not in quotations to become a separate being. So apotheosis is the better term for critical quotations, making someone a god, while theosis is a specialized theological term for sanctification and participation. 5. The most advanced conceptual readings of apotheosis, academic practice, academic methods. Now let's go. It's an quotation, most advanced, but still academically grounded. 1. Apotheosis is technology of legitimacy, in brackets, political theology. In Imperial Rome, especially, apotheosis can be read as a socio-political technology. It sacrifices leadership stage, excuse me, sacralizes, SACRALIZES. It sacralizes leadership, stabilizes succession, and converts power into quotations cosmic authorization. In this reading, apotheosis is not mainly about a metaphysical change in the person, it's about a change in the public ontology, how society is permitted to relate to the ruler. It's about a change in the public ontology. You know what that sentence means? That means how everybody thinks what's actually going on. Here it says it's about a change in the public ontology, how society is permitted to relate to the ruler. Core idea, apotheosis changes the rules of belonging and obedience by moving the figure into the sacred category. Due to apotheosis as narrative infrastructure, in brackets, anthropology and cultural, from an anthropological lens. And guys, technically these lectures of mine are anthropological, study of humans. From an anthropological lens, apotheosis is a cultural mechanism for producing a hero founder archetype, a stable in quotations origin and around polity. Polity means a form or process of civil government or constitution. And then it says, and the bridge between in quotations human history and in quotation cosmic. Yeah, this is what species is. Core idea, apotheosis turns historical contingents into sacred. View 3, apotheosis as semiotics of maximal value, brackets philosophy of language symbolism. In modern metaphorical use, quotations, apotheosis becomes a symbolic operator. This is the maximal intensification of value. So when we say in quotations, the apotheosis of courage, we encourage push to a quasi-divine exemplar. Wow, what a sentence. I just got to take this, guys, the sentence is beautiful. Can you imagine somebody writing it like their online dating profile? So when they say, in quotations, the apotheosis of courage, we mean courage pushed to a quasi-divine exemplar. Core idea, apotheosis is, in quotations, value made absolute in a figure or moment. View 4, apotheosis as a cognitive threshold. Your consciousness theme refined academically. In your framework, in quotations, the apotheosis of consciousness, the academically careful thing is you're not claiming the mind becomes a literal God. You're using quotations apotheosis in the modern conceptual sense, the highest intensification of the capacity. So in quotations, apotheosis of consciousness in quotations can be defined as the point at which consciousness becomes reflexively aware of its own meaning-making limits and reorganizes itself from, in quotations, meaning consumer or producer into, in quotations, meaning participant and stabilizer. That matches the figurative modern sense of apotheosis pinnacle combination, while still echoing the older sense in quotations raised to a higher order. So, guys, this is very important. Let me see how I can explain this. So, I'm going to explain to you what I mean by the apotheosis of consciousness. But here, what I'm reading for you, it says the point. Let's look at the elements. The point at which consciousness becomes reflexively, that means without even realizing, the point at which consciousness becomes reflexively aware of its own meaning dash making limits. That means you discover your limitations as a human being and reorganizes itself from this program of I'm here to produce and consume meaning all the time. I'm here to look at a moment and see meaning, and I'm here to also produce meaning, by moving, so you see that's how we've been conditioned. Now, even AI is telling us, buddy, like move into meaning, participation, and stabilization. So I want you to think that you're not creating the meaning, you are participating in something that, in accordance to the filters of your mind, you can, in some sense, I guess, stabilize and participate. So personally stabilize the person. So participate in it in an organized way, right? So guys, here it's saying the highest intensification of a capacity. So, and for me, guys, I do not claim that the mind, like I'm not saying this mind is God. People are like, if God is a part of the senses, I'm saying that God, there could be a part of God within us, but that does not mean it is God. Do you understand? That means there is a command given to the specific design of it. Now, how we interpret that, we don't. But here's the cool thing: the secular are going from bottom up, and the religious were up and then came down, and now they're again from bottom up. That's the fun. All of you, regardless of your beliefs, ideas, you're all humans trying to figure out. You know, preparation for the future. That's something should have more peace. No way. You're unprepared for the far future too. Okay. When I say far future, I'm talking about like thousands of like child's play millions. If you ask me if I've envisioned millions as a sci-fi writer, I've attempted just out of playfulness, just to envision as far as I can, and it's so funny because aside from, anyways, you have to read my sci-fi or whatever. Aside from tech preparing the cosmos for human procreation, we must follow the life of our intelligence. You must begin training. And how do you train your inner realms? It's not something that I can teach you. It's something you notice. That's it. I'm that person who, like, you know, like they say a store is like, how do I say it? I don't know, I think this is one of my traits. I have a strange endurance sometimes, and the reason I can endure is because I don't, the ego, whenever you have an ego and things don't go your way, that's because you're personalizing the world. It is a great ability to have an ability to personalize your person, which means to notice what is generated in the moment, what is truth from the moment, where is the originating value. Imagine somebody comes and says, let's say there's a group of people sitting inside, somebody comes in from outside and says, guys, there's a dragon outside the parking lot. You know? Now, here's the funny thing. That person can come and share that statement, simulated reality. And because we don't verify it, we can't verify it. In the presence of the greatness of the world that knows us well. My beloved species, do not fear anything. The world, the whole cosmos, everything that exists out there beyond you, beyond all of us, it is not something to fear. It is now time for the species to play its part. You need to wake up in the morning and feel first as a member of the human species. But before that, if you're God conscious, acknowledge the presence of the system admin. I am telling you, the way out of all the different views to the day I've had, the best way I found I live is that I keep it unknown and I see it as mercy of the system. And that means what has been given has been always more than what is God gave us an ability to notice the higher reality. And as we truly notice it, we discover they are fields of command. This is the commanded world, folks. The chicken and the egg, which one came first? Let me tell you which one came first. They both existed simultaneously. Reality was created with, how do I say, results they could never be explained because it was instantaneously projected. Our explanation mechanisms are sequential. Methods are sequential. Anyways, folks, let me see. Is there more? Yeah, there was. It says six, a precise academic definition. Apotheosis is the act of process by which a human figure, idea, or entity is elevated to divine status or treated as divine, historically associated with polytheistic cultures and especially with Greco-Roman practices of deification, including the post-humanist divinization of emperors. In later English usage, the term extends metaphorically to mean the highest or most intensified realization of a quality, style, or achievement. So, guys, I said the apotheosis of consciousness. I'm going to say something here that's from me, and then there's one more part of the research component to read. Dear viewers, apotheosis means elevation to the divine status, which means from the lower planes you are becoming a being, you're ranking up. But the rank, you can't raise your rank. You just live conscious of the presence of the system at the, in every moment of your life, as if in the same way you're conscious, you have a body, you are conscious this world as a host. Host is beyond the world. It is intelligible in ways that even if creatures could pray you. And so it is the nature of man to look at an edgeless sky, to wonder about why it doesn't make sense, and in the vastness of this field of existence, that means if we do, um, religion is for those beings who want to souls, that want the ultimate spiritual lesson. It's not about you. That's that's what it means. That's why we're in this simulation. They're like, yo, man, how do we get out of the simulation? I'm like, not even to identify with the simulation. Your body is the simulation. My body is simulated for, you know, yeah. You know what that means? That means I'm here for a little while. This personality, this voice, this ability to communicate, but what is aware of this whole moment and watching, even hearing me talk as I'm talking, that is a field of awareness and it functions in accordance to divine command. So, what does that mean? I think the more advanced you are, the more instantaneous. You see, there are beings that, like, I have my twin brother. For the longest time, I was like, you know, I would always say, God, why didn't you choose him? You chose the quiet twin. But whatever. I guess, I was nerdy enough to bear with the advantages of not being cool. Get to see what the success. It's a simulation. How you're treating it suggests how. I find it weird. They tell us this world is real. We treat it as real, and then when we die, we're like, oh no, it's unreal. And we're afraid of the unreal the whole time. Isn't that weird? There's no pay. I'm just saying it as a semantic. It's so unique, the design of this reality. It's incomplete when you small. It's incomplete when you really zoom in. It's just a state. The same way the brain is a state. It's like all of existence simultaneously in the state. You know what I mean? Like right now, my awareness of my physical body, my awareness of my subjective experience of my name, and idea of myself, and everything I'm aware of, right? I'm starting to question if we ever know anything in this reality. Because if it has an unknown ontological life of its own, our epistemological life is not the accurate interpretation because it's a limited interpretation, because the human view is a limited interpretation. Its values only its utility. So to be honest, the way reality is designed, it's not designed for us to be good or bad. Like it's not designed for a communication to be connected to truth. Sometimes communication is truth. It took me a while, but now I can, you know, I this whole life, is me understanding. I'm starting to understand. Wait a minute, I went to film school, and the doctor about that I know, I'm studying acting and film everything. To me, it's like, what's the point of an incomplete shape? It's like, even if reality was complete, it's a changing world. Even if we knew everything, there would be nothing. So the unknown is so essential to human psychology that this is why, it's like, the species is trying to build like the narcissists, or what do you call it, those who are just trapped in their inner realms, and they're ignorant of the outer realms. It's like we're trying to pull them into the outer realms until they can realize that what they should have been conditioned in school is stabilization in inner realm activity, conduct, and outer realm conduct. Man, I wish, like, the founder of, like, I don't know, I wish the heads, the daughters of, like, the heads of the global educational system overall, like, kind of like, reach out to me. For me, you don't understand. I'm starting to think more important than, like, so I have this conclusion after if I was to finish these talks, right? What would I do next? I had concluded I'd start inventing. I'd start inventing stuff, right? But I think right now reforming the educational system is coming very close. I guess reinventing the educational system, or stuff in a. Anyways, folks, where am I going with this? So, see, I said the apotheosis of consciousness. Apotheosis means the elevation of the man, of a position of awareness, a position, its experience, its rank, its soul, its positional, and then its rank as a soul becomes the presence of the field. This doesn't mean it is God. It is everything is the command of God. It's like a shivering white, like light, and, like, humanoid being appears in front of me and helps me out, and at the end I'm like, who are you? And it tells me it's God. You're God sent, but you're not God. There's something to be noticed about how the moment is present. To me, it's about, like, oh, I kind of stabilize myself, like this. I'm like, what's in the So in the room, I used to think it was just the world and then others, and then, and now I'm realizing that now I see that there's a system. So you wake up and there's a part of you that's original, and you find yourself in a non-original state of the, and you wonder the whole thing, what to do. The original part of you needs to connect to the original moment of reality. And then you will be divinely energized. And then when you're divinely energized, there will be no fear, because manifestation. You see, you don't go. I don't know. At least this is my approach. I'm more and more. I'm stepping out, into public, pushing myself to do this. You know, but it's about the elevation of everything in consciousness, which we consider to be unelevated, normal, into the status of truth. Pretty much the search for truth is the transference. You're exchanging your epistemology, your personal epistemology, to get to see the impersonal ontology of reality. And once you see that there are armies of kindness, there is a grace, there is a mercy, and by the will, that means if you are not God conscious, the program, the source code behind the program, it's like, let me tell you this, it's like there's a divine protocol, destiny. If the person can go into destiny, or while they're alive, they're like the system admin. He's aware. He's beyond the world room, but is aware of everything in the world room. Anyways, folks, thank you for listening. In the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful. All praise due to the Lord of the world. One and only system admin, God, all created water and bears and users. Let us see the original method of this stuff here on simulated position. And let us realize that there's something original in us, the original method of reality. For once we find the original mode, and when we truly meet the system admin, then knowledge has no importance because the event, the presence of the power, intelligent power of the actual event is moving you. So right now, as humans, we're using the lower technology of language, but you are actually a presence in this world. And who says you're not allowed to feel being present in all of God's creation? You can feel. You're like, no way I exist. Oh my God. What else exists? No way. Everybody's existing in the same moment. Oh my God. Existence is all existing. And oh my God, we're that rare moment that's experiencing existence. Oh my God. Experience is wondering about how it's even experiencing existence. Oh my God. The experience cannot be defined and limited to existence. Oh my God. Experience has unconditional access. What is the unconditional reality and beyond the realm? Where it's the sector of God non-self. This is where it's in the sector and territory of God, is it? But God knows, God sees way better than the narrow human lens. But I know, but perspective. There is no issue. You can believe in like I'm telling you this. The conditional will adjust you to its condition. Therefore, to believe in an unconditional being, the most elevated way, that apotheosis of it, is in an unconditional way. That means you don't even define God's creation. And that is God knows the one as knowledge as reality knows before all things survive. And our eyes, for us, the realization we can still see when our eyes are closed, just enough. It's more light entering your eyes, yet you can see third eye much. It's not even the third eye, it's just the recognition of the presence of the Lord. Anyways, folks, thank you for listening. Apotheosis of consciousness, I believe what I've been trying to do in this lecture is to tell you that basis of not just consciousness, but what is found in that consciousness is the human design. The most precious thing I find in my moment is my humanness, This humanness is super cool and must be, maintained for the future generations. We must maintain our natural, silly humanness. When you personalize reality, it's horrifying. When you impersonalize it, it's hilarious. Anyways, folks, thank you for listening. The whole point of it is we identify as our species, not as just paint on the face of the earth like primitive tribes, but rather we realize that the most important symbol, and people are like, wait a minute, if I'm a member of the human species, where's my membership card? It's like, what? Your membership card is waiting for you in the mirror. When you look in the mirror, you see it. You're a member of the human species. You're a representative of the human species. You're among the 8.1 living, unique humans that have ever existed. And I am telling you, do not fear how far and advanced we must all. That means they're like, if somebody comes up to me like, Mr. Within, is it possible? Can I become an advanced being? I'm like, buddy, you have to be envisioning everybody being advanced. You have to seek the most advanced so your progress is still advanced. Anyways, folks, thank you for listening. I believe the apotheosis of the human species is externally a divine civilization. Externally, the divine civilization means it has the most advanced structure, an advanced divine civilization. And in the inner realms, we're connected to the higher power. We're God conscious. God conscious means that you experience the source code behind reality, and that's how you know before you know. Sometimes you're accessing the source code. It's like you're legit. This might sound like Lord of the Rings level, but you're of pure heart, which means a part of you has managed to still remain as simple as you used to be, in honor of the most advanced beyond towards it, as the whole cosmos knows. All we can do is to go forward, for the great late return of the original ones that are now known. We must elevate. It's like they're like, how do you build paradise on earth? You advance humanity by uniting it by its most facet. The advanced civilization is so fascinating. If the mind can envision, then why? Like, why can the mind envision? Why is someone of I'm talking about advanced civilization? Talking about a system, talking about the realization that it's an operation of the commands that we put on. May the system admin guide the species to the direct path.